Have you ever counted how many words you say in a day? Words help us communicate with others and share our thoughts and ideas. The size of one's vocabulary, that is, the number of words we know and use, changes from one person to another. But we all know that the richer our vocabulary is, the easier it becomes to communicate just the right message. You see, words are curious things. You can completely change their meaning just by adding a few letters before or after the word. Let's take the word write as an example. Rewrite, writer. R-E in rewrite is a prefix, and ER in writer is a suffix. Prefixes and suffixes can be used to create a whole new word. Rewrite means to write something again. And a writer is someone who writes. But don't worry, we'll get back to the ins and outs of that later.
Each week, we are going to explore a new prefix or suffix that will help you master lots of new words. Along with these new prefix or suffix words, you'll also learn a few common words that will help you become a super reader. While some of the words you'll learn have many different meanings, we'll focus on the meaning that comes up in that week's story.
We'll watch videos, solve puzzles, play games, read stories, and even practice how to spell each word. After all, vocabulary without spelling is like peanut butter without jelly. One doesn't work without the other, am I right? Okay, one last tip. Your brain needs time to remember new things, so be patient. You'll get it sooner than you think. Unhappy, unable, unhelpful. What do these words have in common? They all start with un. Un is a prefix, which is a special group of letters that can change the meaning of a word. Let's take the root word happy, for example. When we place the prefix un on this root word, it changes its meaning to not happy. That's because un is a prefix that means not, or opposite of. Be careful, some words can start with un, but not be a word with a prefix. Let's think about the word uncle. If we take away the un, we are left with coal, which isn't a word by itself. So if you remove a prefix, what's left should be a word that can stand on its own. Now let's go learn some un words. One dog, two dogs. 1 dot, 10 dots. When we add the suffix s to many nouns, it changes the meaning to more than one. A suffix is a letter or letters that can be added to the end of a root word to change its meaning. Let's choose another noun. A person, place, or thing, such as a friend. If we want to say we are playing with more than one friend, we say we are playing with friends. Great job! Tip: there are some exceptions where we don't just add an s to pluralize a noun. But don't worry, we will explore them in later lessons. Ready to learn some plurals? Let's go! Return, rewrite, rebuild. Do you notice a common pattern in these words? That's right! Each of these words starts with R-E. It's time to learn a new prefix. R-E means again or back. So rewrite means to write again. Return means to go back to a place or give something back. Tip number 1. Remember, not all words that start with R-E are prefix words. For example, rescue starts with R-E, but when we take away the R-E, we are left with skew, which isn't a word on its own. Tip 2. Some words have a meaning unrelated to the parts that make up the word. For example, reside doesn't mean to side again. We can't always break down a word to its parts to understand its meaning, but we can use context clues to help. Let's go learn some new words. Quick review. Do you remember what suffix we add to many nouns to make them plural? 1 dog, 2 dogs. That's right. We add an s. Great job. Well, not every noun can be pluralized with just the letter s. To make some nouns plural, we add es or ies. So class becomes classes and fly becomes flies. Tip 1. Add es to nouns that end in sh, ch, ss, or x to make them plural. such as brushes, lunches, glasses, and foxes. Tip 2. For nouns that end in Y after a consonant, drop the Y and add IES. So in the word city, where Y comes after T, we drop the Y and add IES to get cities. Let's go practice what we've learned. Do you know another way to say something is not complete? That's a head scratcher. You could say not done or incomplete. How about another way to say something is not active? Inactive. Good job. It looks like we have another prefix on our hands. The prefix IN means not. So invalid means not valid. And inconsequential means not consequential or not important. Similar to other prefixes, we can use context clues to figure out if a word is an IN prefix word or just a word that starts with IN. Think about the word invent, which means to create or design something. If we take off the IN, we are left with vent, which is not related to the meaning of invent. Let's see some of these words in action. So many important things have happened in the past. There were kings and queens, entire civilizations have come and gone, and even your own family tree extends far into history. We use the past tense to talk about past events. For many verbs, we add ed to make them past tense. Decided, colored, and walked are all ways to talk about something that has already happened. Tip 1. When a verb ends in E, we usually drop the E and add ed. Tip 2. There are 3 different pronunciations depending on the ending sound of the verb. Sometimes we pronounce ed as id, d, or t. For instance, we say decided, pulled, and walked, even though all of these words end in ed. Let's practice a few of these words so we can get the hang of it. This week, we will learn about the prefix dis, which means not or opposite of. Can you think of some words that start with dis? Disagree, dislike, disrespect? Oh boy, those are some unhappy sounding words. Don't be discouraged. We can still have fun learning them. Let's go study this week's words. If we want to talk about an ongoing action, we add ing to a verb or action word. She is dancing to the music. We are reading a story together. They are walking to school. Here are 2 tips. Number 1, for most words, drop the final E before adding ing, as in changing bake to baking and make to making. Number 2, if a word has a short vowel sound, you usually double the final letter, as in hop to hopping and spin to spinning. Let's start learning some ing words. Has anyone ever encouraged you to try something new? If so, hopefully they caused you to have courage. This lesson will enable you to understand the en prefix. One of the meanings for the prefix en is to cause to. Let's study some more en words to ensure we understand. The dog wagged its tail playfully. How cute! When we add ly to many root words, we make an adverb, which tells us about how something is done. That's because this suffix means characteristic of, or in a certain way. So how did the dog wag its tail? In a playful way. Here are a couple of tips to help you on your way. Tip number 1. If the base word ends in y, change the y to I and add ly, such as easy to easily. Tip number 2. If the base word ends in le, change the le to ly, such as in gentle to gently. Tip number 3. If the base word ends in IC, add ALLY, such as in magic to magically. Don't worry, with a little practice, you will be able to easily understand LY words. Let's go study this week's words. We have already learned a couple of prefixes that mean not. Can you remember any? That's right. Both UN and IN. Great job! Another prefix that means not is NON. So if you browse in the non-fiction section of the library, you are looking through books that are not fiction or not made up. If someone tells you are talking nonsense, it means you aren't making any sense. We are having non-stop fun, and hope you are too. What does a teacher do? They teach. What does a singer do? They sing. The suffix ER means one who. So we can tell that for many words that end in ER, we are talking about someone or something that does something. There are, of course, some exceptions to this rule. A carpenter is not someone who carpents, and a butcher is not someone who butches. Some words come to us from other languages, such as French, and we can't guess their meaning by removing the ER. Let's be good learners and study a few ER words. If someone gives you a giant cone of delicious ice cream, you may accidentally overeat. And sometimes, when you get a lot of homework, you may feel overworked. The prefix over means too much. So sometimes you may eat too much or overeat, and you may work too much or overwork. The best advice is all things in moderation. Let's not overdo it as we learn this week's words. Can you recall what the ending ER tells us? It tells us that we are talking about someone or something that does something, like a baker. The ending OR is used in the same way. An actor is someone who acts, and a projector is something that projects. Similar to some ER words, not every OR word has a recognizable root. For example, the word author is someone who writes, not one who auths. That is because author comes to us from another language. English has borrowed many words from all around the world. It's time to study this week's words. English has so many spelling rules and exceptions. It can be easy to misspell words. Whoops, I misread your message and thought we were meeting at 2, not 3. Can you guess our prefix for the week? I hope you didn't miscalculate. That's right, it's MIS, which means wrong. Let's prevent future misunderstandings by exploring some MIS words. I hope you are practicing your subtraction and addition skills. I'm making a collection of stickers for my notebook. This week, we're learning about the suffix TION, which helps us talk about an act or process. There are a few suffixes that are similar to TION, such as SION and ATION. We'll learn more about them later. For now, it's time to leap into action and learn a few TION words. Look out! The submarine is headed right for us. Let's take the subway to the baseball game. This week, we're learning all about the prefix SUB. Can you guess what this prefix means? Let's think. Where can you find a submarine? Under the water. Where is the subway? Under the ground. Have you figured it out? SUB means under. It's time to get underway and learn a few SUB words. You can persuade someone with persuasion. And if you decide something, you've made a decision. Similar to shun with a T, shun with an S also turns a verb into a noun to talk about an act or process. We will clear up any confusion, don't worry. Let's take a closer look at some SION words. A prefix is added to the beginning of a root word. Dinosaurs roamed the earth in prehistoric times. It's important to preheat the oven before baking cookies. Yum, cookies! This week, we are learning the prefix PRE. Can you guess what it might mean? That's right, it means before. Are you prepared to learn more? Let's go! We had a great conversation about the movie. Did you get an invitation to the celebration? The suffix ation is another ending that means an act or process. So an invitation is the act of inviting someone. I hope I get an invitation to the celebration too. Let's get started so we can get to the party on time. What's the difference between a national flight and an international flight? A national flight lands in the same country it took off from, while an international flight takes off from one country and lands in another. INTER is a prefix that means between or among. Words that begin with INTER let you know that they are shared between more than one thing. For example, an interaction is an action between more than one person. Tip: not all INTER words can stand alone when you take the prefix away. For example, interest without INTER is est, which isn't a word by itself. Context clues will help you understand words like these. Now, get ready to practice some INTER words. When you define a word, you give it a definition. When you compete, you take part in a competition. Can you spot the suffix here? That's right, ITION. Like TION, SION, and ATION, ITION is a suffix that describes an action or process. It also turns a verb like pose into a noun, position. Tip: some common words that end in ITION don't have a recognizable English root word, like audition. Audition comes from Latin, where the root AUD means related to hearing. But in English, it doesn't have a meaning on its own. Sound complicated? Don't worry. Soon it will be a matter of intuition. If a psychic foretells your future, it means that she's telling you what will happen before it happens. The prefix FORE means before. So words that start with FORE tell you that they come before something else, or that they are at the front of something. Your forehead is at the front of your head. To foresee is to know about something before it happens. Let's learn some more FORE words. The suffix ABLE lets you know that something can be done. A believable story can be believed. An enjoyable game can be enjoyed. If you understand how this suffix works, that means this explanation is understandable. Tip: like other suffixes, the root word doesn't always have a recognizable meaning by itself. For example, capable, which comes to us from Latin, doesn't mean able to cap. It means able to do something, or skillful. With practice, you'll soon become comfortable using these ABLE words. The prefix DE tells you that something is being undone or removed. If a builder constructs a house, but then needs to take it apart again, what would he have to do? Deconstruct it. If your sidewalk becomes slippery in the winter and the ice should be removed, what do you need to do? De-ice it. It's time to study this week's words. Let's go! Do you have cards, toys, or anything else that you like to collect? If so, these things are collectible. The suffix ible, like the suffix able, lets you know that you can do something. But while a lot of able words leave you with a recognizable English word when you take the suffix away, many ible words, like incredible or invisible, don't. This is because more ible words come from other languages, like Latin, than able words do. Don't worry, we'll practice using these words so you can get the hang of it. Underground, undersea, underarm. Can you spot the prefix in these words? That's right. It's under. Under is a prefix that means below. So if someone tells you they saw a movie about underwater animals, you can guess that those animals were below the surface of the water. Let's practice some under words. If I told you my box was magical, what would you know about the box? Well, you definitely know that the box had something to do with magic. The suffix al means related to, so magical means related to magic. Tropical means related to the tropics, and so on. This is how al can turn a noun into an adjective. But al can also turn a verb into a noun. For example, if you add al to the verb arrive, you get the noun arrival. The verb propose becomes proposal. Get it? Now let's learn this week's words. What's another way you could say you were halfway through a book? Well, you've reached the middle of the book, so you could say midway. Mid is a prefix that means in the middle. So if a word starts with mid, you can guess that it is the middle of something. A midnight snack happens in the middle of the night. Your teacher gives you a midweek quiz in the middle of the week. Now you're getting the hang of it. Let's go! What's another way you could say the office of the president? The presidential office. The suffix ial, like the suffix al, means related to or characteristic of. Tip 1. In most cases where ial is used, you would drop the silent e at the end of the root word. Face becomes facial, which means related to the face. Office becomes official. Tip 2. Sometimes the suffix ial replaces a y instead of an e. So memory becomes memorial. Industry becomes industrial, and so on. Let's see some ial words in action. Semi is a prefix that means half. A semicircle is half of a circle. A semi-tropical climate is only tropical half of the time. Sometimes semi is used to mean partly, or not completely. For example, a semi-dry towel isn't totally dry, and semi-sweet chocolate isn't totally sweet. Now let's practice using some semi-words. The suffix y means characteristic of. So you can usually guess the meaning by looking at the root word and thinking about the characteristics of that word. A sunny day has lots of sun. A rainy day has lots of rain. What about something that makes a lot of noise? It's noisy. You're getting it now. Tip 1. For most words, just add y. Dirt plus y equals dirty. Health plus y equals healthy. Trick plus y equals tricky. Tip 2. For words that end in a silent e, remove the e and add y. Ice becomes icy. Shine becomes shiny. Bubble becomes bubbly. Tip 3. For words that end with a short vowel sound, double the final consonant and add y. Mud becomes muddy. Sun becomes sunny. Fun becomes funny. Don't worry. With practice, this will become easy. A bicycle has 2 wheels. A binocular has 2 lenses. Bi is a prefix that means 2. So if you see a word that starts with bi, you can usually guess what it means by looking at the root word. If the root word is related to time, bi can mean one of 2 things. Bi-weekly can mean twice a week, or once every 2 weeks. A little confusing, right? This is when context is important to help you figure out the meaning. Remember, practice makes perfect. So let's go study. A forgetful person is known for their forgetfulness. If you feel sick, then chances are you have a sickness. The suffix ness is used to turn an adjective into a noun. Happy becomes happiness, dark becomes darkness, and so on. Can you think of other nouns that end with ness? Good job! Let's go study this week's words. The prefix tri, which comes to us from both ancient Greek and Latin, means 3. 3 of what? Looking at the root word will usually tell you. However, many of these root words also come from ancient Greek and Latin. For example, the word tricycle comes from tri, 3, and cyclus, circle or wheel. A tricycle is like a bicycle, but with 3 wheels instead of 2. A trilogy, from tri, 3, and logos, story, is a series of 3 related stories. Let's try using some TRI words. What do you call something you do to keep active? An activity. What about something you're responsible for? A responsibility. The suffix ity changes an adjective into a noun. Tip 1. When the root word ends in a silent E, like infinite, remove the E and add ity, infinity. Tip 2. In cases where the root word ends in ble, like able, replace ble with bility, ability. Tip 3. If the root word ends in ous, like curious, replace ous with osity, curiosity. Now, let's take this opportunity to practice some new words. Remember how the prefix bi means 2 and tri means 3? Well, now we're going to learn 2 more prefixes related to numbers. Quad is a prefix that means 4. A quadrant is 1/4 of a circle. To quadruple something is to create 4 of that thing. Then we have the prefix penta, which means 5. A pentagon is a shape with 5 sides, and a pentathlon is a contest where athletes compete in 5 different events. Now it's time to see these number prefixes in action. A beautiful flower is full of beauty. A stressful day is full of stress. The suffix ful means full of, or characterized by, and it can turn a noun into an adjective. You can usually guess what the word means by looking at the root word. Pretty helpful, right? Tip: the suffix ful can also form nouns which tell you how much of something you have. For example, a spoonful of honey is enough honey to fill a spoon. All right, let's go learn this week's words. It's time to learn some new number prefixes. The prefix hexa means 6, and octa means 8. Numerical prefixes like these are often used for naming shapes or geometric figures. For example, a hexagon is a shape with 6 sides, and an octagon is a shape with 8 sides. But it's not all about geometry. An octopus has 8 arms, and the word hexapod refers to anything with 6 legs. Let's practice these number prefixes. If fearful means full of fear, how would you say the opposite? That someone has no fear at all? Fearless. The suffix less means without. A flawless piece of art has no flaws, and a useless object has no use. Tip. Sometimes less means not able to. For example, countless means more than can be counted. There are countless stars in the night sky, and countless reasons to practice your spelling every day.